Okay, then. Chapter 71 is titled Strange Attraction. In this chapter, Kavoth haggles with and ends up buying a horse for 15 talents from a horse salesman. This horse takes Kavoth just outside Traben pretty quickly, where he meets a tinker. The tinker trades Kavoth a Traben stone, which is a magnet, for his horse, and a blanket, and a shirt, and a brandy for the saddle intact. Kavoth ventures into town, finds a bar, and inquires about the wedding. The bartender leads Kavoth to a lone survivor of the wedding, and it's dinner, surprisingly. Guys?
Couple great parts that I love in this chapter. I love the interaction with the horse salesman, and I love the description of him riding to Traben. Love the description of how he rides the horse. But I love his negotiation with this horse salesman.
Yeah, it's great.
Because this is how like I would deal with a salesman in any situation. Like if I'm gonna buy something, like I'm already walking into the store knowing I'm gonna buy something. So don't fucking give me your sales pitch. Like as a salesman, I don't need your fucking sales pitch. I'm the easiest sell ever. Just show me what I want, and I'm gonna fucking buy it. And we're not gonna have to fucking dicker around about it. And that's Kavoth's mentality in this situation is like my mentality in all sales situations. So I love that aspect of it. But I love the listen. I interrupt again. I'm in a hurry, so we're gonna skip the preliminaries. I won't pretend I'm uninterested. You won't waste my time with a parade of hacks and nags. If I have not bought a horse in 10 minutes, I will leave and buy one elsewhere. I met his island, Sava. Sir, the purchase of a horse should never be so rushed. You would not pick a wife in 10 minutes, and on the road, a horse is more important than a wife. He gave a bashful smile. Even God himself, I cut him off again. God's not buying a horse today. I am.
Yeah.
It's such a great little fucking interaction.
There's a lot of great building in terms of his knowledge of horses, because we don't really get much of that. We buy it as soon as he talks about troopers live and die by the horses that pull their wagons, and his parents had not neglected his education in that area. So, and he goes into pretty great detail about times where, people would try to take advantage of them because they're on the road. So they try to stick them with a horse that's not going to last long, and then they're going to be down the road away from them anyway. So they try to rip them off. But that's why it's so important that they understand their horses. So he's going into this with knowledge, which we get so often with Kavoth, which is tremendous. And yeah, he's not fucking around. And he has to repeatedly make it really clear to this guy. And if I remember right, he even threatens him. Yeah.
The next part, like he brings out like some bullshit horses, and he's like, you've just wasted 2 precious minutes of my time. So I'm guessing you still don't understand my position here. Let me be as plain as possible. I want a fast horse ready for hard riding today. For this I will pay quickly and hard coin and without complaint. I held up my new heavy purse in one hand and shook it, knowing he could tell the true ring of true sealedish silver inside. If you sell me a horse that throws a shoe, or starts to limp, or spooks at shadows, I will miss a valuable opportunity, a quite unrecoverable opportunity. If that happens, I will not come back and demand a refund. I will not petition the constable. I will walk back to Emery this very night and set fire to your house. Then when you run out of the front door in your nightshirt and stockle cap, I will kill you, cook you, and eat you. Right there on your lawn while all your neighbors watch.
Jesus.
Yeah, not. We already know how serious Kavoth is because what he went through with Devi and spending that much money. But then, when it comes down to what he actually needs the money for, getting there to find out about the Chandrian, we find out how dead serious he is.
Yeah,
because he's willing to commit arson, murder of an entire family, and then I think he said something about eating the family.
Yeah, he
right?
There are
cannibalism, the whole 9 yards.
There are quite a few moments where, when there's importance on the line, he does not fuck around, and he does not make idle threats, or at least he makes people believe this is real shit. I will fucking come back here and murder you, and I will do it viciously. Like,
now, granted, I don't think he would actually cook this dude and eat him, but the threat gets the point across.
Yeah.
Quit fucking around.
And it works.
Fuck around. I need this shit. Let's get it done.
Yeah, and it works.
And
the
even
guy
still, even this, the balls of that fucking horse salesman is after he hears that, he tries to fuck Kavoth over with his horse with the painted fucking foot.
I love that whole back the painted the horse of a different color. That whole element he uses is so great, dude, because again, this is repay reading, because you see how well he does it, how much he peppers it in. There's little hints like, well, why did he come down on his price so quick? And then the payoff with the tinker's tremendous, because he tells him, oh, well, you think, well, all right, so you figure out why the horse salesman came down on his price so quick, because he thought Kavoth called him out on his bullshit, because Kavoth doesn't know his what's the language?
Sealdish.
Yeah, Sealdish as well as
Sealdish.
yeah. So he called him what, like one sock or something like that.
That's what he actually named him, but he thought he was naming him
Twilight.
like Midnight
Twilight.
or Twilight. But yeah, it's
So
great too,
great.
because he's like, there's a couple good parts on that where he's like, "What's your name, boy?" I asked gently so he could get used to the sound of my voice. He snuffed delicately at my hand, keeping close watch with one large, intelligent eye. He didn't back away, but he certainly wasn't at ease either. I kept talking as I came closer, hoping he would relax at the sound of my voice. "You deserve a good name. I hate to see some lordling with delusions of wit saddle you with some terrible name like Midnight or Sooty or Scut." And then when he starts talking to him in Sealdish, he goes, the horse gets, it's familiar
Gets
with that
more comfortable,
language.
yeah.
And he's like, I wanted to say Twilight, but I couldn't bring the Ciaru to mind. Rather than pause, I just pulled ahead, faking it as best I could, as I eyed his hooves to see if they were chipped or cracked. "To Keth Salen, are you first night?" The big black lowered his head and nuzzled me. "You like that one, do you?" And I said with a bit of a laugh, knowing that what really happened was that he caught the scent of a package of dried apples I had tucked in one of my pockets of my cloak. The important thing was that he had a feel for me now. If he was comfortable enough to nuzzle at me for food, we could get along well enough for a hard day's ride. "Keth Salen seems to suit you for a name," I said, turning back to Kearva. "Anything else I need to know?" Kearva seemed
Perfect timing.
disconcerted. What's that?
Perfect. I mean, because he says
yeah.
it and then says, "Anything else you need to tell me that you're not telling me yet?" I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah. What's great about it is it's similar to him when Elodin hears that he gave Ari her name.
Oh,
He's like, what made you think of Ari? And then in this one where he's like, he thought it meant one thing, but it meant one sock, which fit perfectly with that horse, where like it shows his naming ability is what it does. It demonstrates his naming ability.
By the way, the Kearva kind of gives it away. He seems to get disconcerted and he shies a bit on his right side. So he almost like gives it, correct that. Instead of giving it away, he's basically saying, well, be careful of his right side. It'd be less likely that he's going to figure this out if he's being careful on that side. You know what I mean? Like it would be like, oh, if he's favoring that or something, it would almost be like, he's, I don't even know.
I think he was just giving a natural warning on that part. I think once he called him, whatever that name was, when he called him that name, I think that Sealdish man was like, oh fuck, you figured it out.
Yeah.
And so at that point,
was the sock on his right side?
He was a beaten dude at that point.
Yeah,
and then it was just like, well, just as a warning, then he's fucking just completely bound down to Kavoth at that point.
So I like, just like a first time perspective of it, how Kavoth is talking to the horse, and you really get to feel like, okay, this horse is taking to him, and you don't realize it that when he actually says the horse's name, which he names him correctly, you don't realize it, but when he does that, the horse nuzzles his ear like, yep, that's my name.
Well, I like, in particular, what I like about it so much, he keeps talking about Arladin. He keeps talking about his father. He keeps referencing, like, this is the way you do this. And so it's nice because it builds more into him, and you're seeing, it's not just like, if he was just doing it, like, this is the thing you do, it doesn't build as much that it's building from something he's experienced before. And we've already, we have respect for his father and how he, interacts in the world and how he has knowledge about these sorts of things. So the whole thing, it's really great. It's paced, and there's so many things that are playing out on top of one another with the negotiation with, the horse salesman, as well as Kavoth with the horse, and the intricacies that are involved there, that it doesn't matter what he's saying, but he's still saying things, trying to get that familiarity. Always got those dried apples in the cloak. There's a special pocket for those dried apples to tempt the horse.
Well, I like the differential between him thinking like, I'm gonna try to work him down to 19, and I'm just gonna go through the motions and see if I can. He's willing to pay 20, but he's like, I'm gonna see if I can work him down to 19, and then the guy comes back with 16, and he almost shits his pants. Like, shit. It's like, and he's like, all right, I'll give you 15. And he's like, is he going to fucking take this? And then he takes it, and it's like, holy shit. He took it.
I love how he goes further, and he does the same thing he does with the Tinker, which is 15, and that with saddle, tack, bag of oats. I need all these things with that. Yeah, it's great, and he takes it, and he's just like, Jesus, took all my stage training to keep me from, like, shitting my pants visually, basically. But
he's like, the sealed seemed uncomfortable meeting my eye. If I didn't know horses as well as I do, I would have thought I was being swindled. Maybe the horse was stolen, or the man was desperate for money. He just hadn't realized, like, his naming ability is what fucking did it for him.
It's so great because, again, on the first read, I remember just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Something's going on here, but it's not enough to be like, to delve into it further. It's just let it sit there, and we're like, something weird there. And then as we go through, and he walks through the solvents, and then the Tinker's like, dude, you're lying to me. And then he sees it, and he's like, I would never lie. I would never lie to a Tinker. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, shit, man, I wasn't lying. This motherfucker got me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the few ones where Rothfuss, and not only does he pay you off in the books, like he pays you off in the same chapter.
Well, and it's
something's up. You know something's up, and then you find it out, like, later on in the same chapter.
What's so beautiful about that form of payoff too is the Tinker literally says, "Well, you should have known from the name. You don't like your Sea Eldish isn't that good." It's like, well, I fucking named him. It's like, well, you didn't even know what you said, man. Yeah, it's great.
Well,
that's the
big payoff for us is that shows his naming prowess.
So, did you guys, even though despite the sock, the course has one sock, the whole time that he's on his way to Timran?
Traben.
He's Traben. I'm sorry. It's a long and somewhat arduous trip, but you never lose faith in that horse. That horse seems to be a real strong and awesome horse. Awesome horse. So anyway, I'll bring back that horse seems like maybe it has something else to it.
Well, the horse.
Maybe we'll see him again. Maybe we won't.
There's two things. The horse is tremendous. Kavoth is tremendous at managing a horse. It's the combination of the two things. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I love that. Rothfuss. It's such an interesting thing because we're in a freaking rush here, and he's trying to get there as quickly as possible. But he's not an idiot, so he has to pace him out. And the way he has to pace him out, it slows everything down. But we still have to get there. It's a really interesting choice for Rothfuss to make to even do this. You know what I mean? To even have this.
And Rothfuss quickly dumps on us that Kavoth knows what the fuck he's talking about when it has to do with horses.
Well, it's the walk. Well, and there's a great line in particular before we even go into it, which is about the owners being the biggest problem of horses. It's the mismanagement of the horse. So they don't know how to manage the horse. They run them out too quick, and they're like, oh, I got this nag. And it's like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You got to build them up, and then it's all of that stuff. It's tremendous, and it builds the world out. It makes it all more realistic. Because you can't just...
It's like most problems with horses have nothing to do with the horses themselves. They stem from the ignorance of the rider. Folks shoe the horse badly, saddle them improperly, feed them poorly, then complain that they were sold a half-lame, sway-back, ill-tempered hack. I knew horses. My parents taught me to ride and care for them, while most of my experience had been with sturdier breeds, bred to pull rather than race. I knew how to cover ground quickly when I needed to. What's interesting about reading this is I don't know shit about horses. I don't fucking know anything about it. Like, he could be just completely bullshitting me, and like all this information is fucking horse shit, and it's not accurate at all. Like, fucking horse shit. And so, like, it could be all misinformation, but it seems like when you're reading it that Rothfuss really fucking knows horses, or that he researched horses, horses a lot. And so like it's really well written in that. It's the same way like with his music. It's a very similar, like when I read this chapter, it's a very similar feel to when he describes music is to when he describes horses. It feels like he knows what the fuck he's talking about. Like in a way that I don't think that a lot of times when I'm reading other authors, like, and they're describing different scenarios, I don't think like, oh, this guy really knows what the fuck he's talking about. I do think that when Rothfuss talks about music or he talks about riding horses, like, this motherfucker researched his shit is what I always feel.
I was going to say, there's two sides of that. One is that occurred to me in this read through too, where it's like, man, I wonder how many people he talked to about, riding a horse for a long period and what it would take, and then what complication could come up. Or he is just a very, very good writer at convincing you of his version of the truth.
It's completely full of shit. He's just so good at it.
But some cowboy's going to read this book and be like, that motherfucker.
Well, what's really interesting about it is it's logical, right? And we buy in, and we get to the point where it's like, wow, I almost feel like you feel like you took this trip. You feel like you went through it with Kavoth, and you're like, oh, so this is what it would be like to take this trip, but to do it the right way. And that's one of the beautiful things about what Kavoth is capable of, is everything he does, he either does it the right way, or if he fouls it up like tremendously, and he calls himself out the entire period. You know what I mean? He gets a lesson off of it. It's very real to life in that sense, man.
Well, like, what's interesting is, like, I've read a lot of stories where there's people that are riding horses. I've read a ton of them. I've read a lot of stories where music.
I've never had this staging presence of the riding of the horse, the slowing down and the canter and the gallop and the walk.
Teaching you how to ride a horse.
Yeah. Like
the leg muscles. Like, think about that. Yeah, like how his legs lock up and how he needs to walk. That kind of stuff I have read about, like, people get sore from riding and shit, but just the extreme level of detail that he puts into it, like, that's what's rare. Like like him explaining, like, this is how, like, if you wanted to cover 60 miles in an afternoon, here's what you would have to do. The only way it would work is to do it this way. Like, no one's ever fucking, any other story I read, they're just like, I fucking rode the shit out of my horse and I got there and fucking boom. Well, I love like so, when he's going uphill.
Football, fucking touchdown.
I love like when he's going uphill and there's particularly winding roads, he has to slow down, because if he didn't, he could either hit a tree or hit someone. So he needs to slow that down. And then, but there's little rewards along the way where it's like, but then we came across a brook, perfect timing. Horse gets some water real quick. So this actually helps. But even then pulls the horse away before he drinks too much. So it's like,
and takes off all the saddles and everything.
Takes
that all off. he goes into such detail, like
of how to handle the complications.
Here's like, I mean, like we constantly talk about how amazing he is as a writer, but I mean, I think these are like the perfect examples of why he's just on a different level. Because like what we're describing, you would think it should be boring. Like,
yeah,
dude, why are you fucking weighing me down in the minutia of like you're taking off his fucking saddle? Like this is like you're describing the bathroom breaks, man. I don't need the fucking bathroom breaks, but like he's like doing that and the ultra realism. But he does it. He just has a ability. He has a knack, if you will. He has a knack for
how damn
going into like extreme detail, but doing it in the most interesting way where it enhances things where normally it would weigh you down, but he does it in a way where it enhances the story.
Typically this chapter or this section would be, I rode a horse and I got there quickly and maybe something happened. It would be like the Junpui trip where it'd be like something happened, but we're not even going to, we're not going to visit it. And what's so interesting about that, the Junpui trip where we just get like 3 little bullet points, it's like, that sounds like a fucking real interesting 6, 7, 8 chapter segment that you could have wrote in, and then he just doesn't do it. Instead, we're on a horse for 4 or 5 pages, which are tremendous. And again, it's great. But again, most authors, I feel like, wouldn't do that. And that's what, again, I mean, I think that's a choice where it's like, I'm going to do this differently in a way that's going to be tremendously interesting in a unique way. And I don't know if he made that a conscious decision.
It's hard to pin down on why, like, it's so good. Like, because he does. He gives so many details. And, like, he gives like everything, like when the way he explains sympathy and everything, he like goes into so much minute detail. Like he really explains it out, but every time he does, it's just like, well, this fucking chapter is amazing. Whereas you would just like, if I told you like I was going to explain something and I'm going to explain it into minute detail, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are you making like a YouTube video on how to change your alternator? He's fucking stupid. And like, no, he's like fucking does it and it's amazing.
I'll verbalize one detail of the trip that kind of puts it in perspective. The whole time, he's following this brook. The horse gets a couple chances to drink, but then at some point the brook becomes rancid. He says it has something to do with a tannery or maybe a mine or something. It ends up being the solvent from that mine or tannery that makes it so
gives us the reveal
obnoxious of a smell that that the horse won't even drink from it, that ends up stripping the paint off his leg and ends up showing the tinker
the
that
white
the
sock,
horse isn't.
I think
the one sock.
I think
so bright.
I think to Dan's point and why I think it's so important to do this is there's so many fantastic occurrences within the books. I mean, we're buying magic, we're buying sympathy, we're buying, these things that don't happen in our world. And what things like this chapter does, what the horse trip does, is it's like a ballast to tie down the magical realism of sorts, or the magical qualities to reality. So that's why, like, spending the time to make sympathy like gravity or sympathy like physics, and then to make this horse trip like a literal horse trip. And every step of the way, the complications that would come up have nothing to do with magic and nothing to do with sympathy. It has to do with the horse has muscles and you're going to work the shit out of him, and you better slow down or the lactic acid is going to build up and he's going to lock up and now he can't move. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those realistic elements tie down the magical elements of the book and make it so much more like it. Yes, technically it's fantasy genre, but this is what is so compelling to me. I like the realism interlaced. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it does it in a way like, look, if I was playing a video game and I was riding a horse and I had to keep fucking resting the horse and like I had to take him from a walk to a camp, I would get so fucking annoyed.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like, dude, just let me go. Let's go. Let's get there. Like, and he has a way of making you enjoy the journey that it's rare. It's not a typical thing. Like it's like I there's a reason why these books are so popular, but I also I don't think a lot of people appreciate how different this dude is. Like, I've read a lot of authors. He's different.
He is. Yeah, and for me it's that he has this ability to, again, well, I mean, this is a small thing, but it spoke to me where he mounts back up on the horse. He's getting back up to a gallop in slow stages. My legs burned and ached as I leaned over his neck. The drumming of his hooves was like a counterpoint to the slow song of the wind, endlessly burning past my ears. So it's just like one of those little things that like were there in that point. And I like when he's using that, like that element of the sound along with what, you know, it's literally the horse and the wind and what's going on there. And then again, another snag comes up. We have to cross a stream. And that's when he takes off the tack and everything else and has to resaddle him. And it takes all this time, which would be monotonous if you're playing a video game or if you're doing it yourself. But for some reason, in reading it in the way that he's delivered it, it's
very
pretty
interesting.
Great.
Yeah. The only part he loses me on, he completely loses me on when he's like, Keth Selin was fast, so fast that the wind tore at my cloak, stretching it behind me like a flag. Despite the fact that I knew I must cut quite the dramatic figure, I quickly grew tired of the drag on my neck, unfastened the cloak, then stuffed it into my saddlebag. No, you did. You look like a huge fucking dork, and like I'm tired of trying to be sold like he's riding a horse and his cloak is fucking flying in the back. Like, you look like you're 10 years old, dude. You look like a 10-year-old fucking nerd running around with your Superman cape. Like, no, quit trying to sell me on these fucking cloaks, man. I'm over them. They're not fucking cool. They're fucking super nerdy. Stop fucking selling me this bullshit.
This is the...
That's right, Dan. And Kavoth was like, and I know how cool I looked with that cloak dragging on my neck.
Now, this is pretty good.
I had to put it away.
So Dan showed up for a story about a horse, and he's hearing about cloaks billowing in the wind. It's like, no, dude, stop selling me the cloak. I want the horse. I want the horse story.
Tell me about like how your fucking feet were in the stirrups and like how they were positioned and fucking like how you were holding the reins. I don't want to hear about your dumbass cloak. I'm over the cloaks. Stop selling.
Just so we're clear,
you already lost the sale. Finish, I'm not buying cloaks. Finish. Quit trying to sell me on them. Like Florian's cloak sounds all right. I mean, that one sounds like all right. You can fucking there's some utility there. All these other ones, fucking just super nerd hour. Get that shit out of here. Get that out of my face.
The constant billowing as if it's just CGI and in reality.
Like, I cannot imagine like if I'm wearing like a hoodie and I'm fucking just riding a motorcycle and the hoodie is like flowing in the back and I'm just sitting there like, oh, dude, I must be cutting to such the dramatic figure. Look at my hoodie.
You're not with a hoodie.
Look at Billow.
You're not with a hoodie. You need a cloak. That's exactly what he's saying. You need a cape or a cloak. You need a Count Chocula cape with a gold chain at the
hoodie
neck.
Hoodie doesn't billow.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Hoodie doesn't billow. Get that cape, bro. Get that cape. You'll cut quite the figure.
I honestly think that's what helps Rothfuss out is that I can appreciate his writing because he throws in so much nerdy shit where I'm like, all right, well, he's a great writer, but he's still a huge fucking dork.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well. So where do we get to?
But then,
just don't get it, Dan.
Then the next thing is he comes upon the Tinker, which I think we talk about this all the way back in episode 1. This is we dive into the Tinker in the very first episode, and so now we're finally here in episode 17.
Well, when you say we talked about it, this is the Tinker having the knack and offering the rope repeatedly, by the way. So I forgot that. He doesn't just offer it. He's like, well, I'd like a shirt. And he's like, he offers it up again. He's like, again, so here's your list of things. Here's what I'm offering to you. So even though he kind of passed it, Kavoth didn't take the offer. He tries to give it to him yet again. And then the tinker just like shrugs like, trying to help you out, bro. But, you can't see it. So just like you walking past Devi's offerings, I guess I'm not here.
Yeah. He does it both times he runs into Tinker. He takes some of their offerings, and what he takes from them plays a part, but what he doesn't take from them would have played, a part. Some of them are minor, like the Tinker and Severin offers him like wax for his boots, which would have helped with all the rain.
But wasn't a deal breaker.
His
yeah.
fucking feet were always soaked.
Yeah.
So if he had taken that wax, or the like shoe polish or whatever it was, like it would have covered his shoes. That would have prevented them from getting soaked. Like, so that would have helped. It's a minor thing, but he was bitching about it.
Kind of like the strawberry wine is a bit minor.
Rope.
But the rope is huge.
Yeah, strawberry wine's minor, but the rope would have played a huge role.
What's interesting, what I also like that he does here, and he does this as well with the Rue. When there's certain individuals that have a cultural sophistication, they talk about the Edema Rue, excluding Kavoth's aunt. They talk about the Edema Rue in a very respectful manner, and those similar people talk about tinkers in that way. And Kavoth always talks about tinkers in a very, very highly respectful manner where they're always elevated. And there's always like, well, the road's not that bad. I mean, hey, no one's being rude to a tinker, so it's not that bad. I would never hurry past and be rude. It's always those sort of mentionings that it's always very respectful. They always offer a lot of not just, items. They offer a lot of knowledge about, like, these are like the town crier, right? They're like the local newspaper, it's where they're getting information.
It seems like all the outcasts stick together, like the Adem, the Tinkers, the Rue, like all these kind of people seem to stick together and have a sense of respect for each other. Whereas like the people who are in civilization and that have, power and money, like they look down on these like outsiders.
Yeah, and it's all about their bloodline.
Very, very much seems like there's like two castes of people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we get even more of that of an element when we hear about Savoy and Sem and how there's this big difference in the caste system even amongst nobles. And I mean, you have to. I would imagine that is how it is. That's how the power elites work. That's like the what is it? The Hilton saying, "Yeah, this guy's poor. He's only got like 20 mil." Like, it's like, dude, this is not. You are not realistic to most human beings. You just sound like a freaking brat. But yeah, the whole back and forth with the Tinker's great. The mystique around them keeps building out, which I really like a lot. The Edema Rue and the Tinkers have that sort of interrelatedness, like you were just saying, sort of outlaws stick together type situation, and I dig it. I dig sort of their. It's not like secret society, but it's like a loose adjoinment of.
There's
history.
no question in their rapport. Yeah. There's no question in the rapport between the Edema Rue and...
Well, they both live on the road, so there's a big part there.
Yeah, that too. But there's definitely a mutual respect.
Yeah, but...
they definitely, I mean, they have respect for each other, and they also... They're in a very similar situation as, they're nomadic people. They're not living in a city trying to work their way up into higher echelons. I mean, they're going from town to town, and so they have a lot of commonality between each other.
But by the way, the Tinkers too, I mean, think this situation out. The Tinker needs a horse. Kavoth needs to get rid of a horse. I mean, it's freaking perfect. Right? Yeah. It's just a perfect scenario for literally what they need right now, the two of them, in trade. So, and it's like perfect timing. Well, I wish I could help you out, but I need to get to Traven. Okay, well, you're there. So, like, So he delivers him great news. I mean, it's all like it's a perfect scenario for the two of them. And the Tinker gets to deliver the fantastic horse of a different color censure, which is nice.
Yeah. I like that. That it's given further emphasis that the Roo and the Tinkers both kind of have a respect for each other, and when he's like, "Oh, you're a bad liar," and he's like, "Whoa, hold on, I didn't properly introduce myself. I'm one of the Edema Roo. I wouldn't lie to a Tinker on my worst day." And then he's like, "Oh, sorry, it's unusual to see one of the folk on the roads by themselves." So they got that mutual respect.
It's interesting. The Tinker says, "My sincere apologies to you and your family." I've heard that a few times when people speak to the Roo. It's always about the family, and the family is literally like the person eating at your campfire now. Like if you come into their fold, part of the family. Like it's very communal. It's
and that's what we see when Kavoth's a kid with his troop. It's a very family oriented thing. It's not like Arladin with his employees. It was like they were all one family.
Yeah.
Well, at least that we learned towards the end, at least that it's not really whoever stumbles on them. They at least have to act right.
Yeah.
We learned that from Kavoth, that it's not just whoever comes upon him, and Abinthy comes on him, but he still acts right. He still abides by the customs and is not a dick. Is not some rapist or something like the guys at the end of the story.
I like the back and forth.
Yeah, I get the strong impression that the Roo they frown on rape. They're not big fans of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, what I meant was they seem like good people. They're good people, and they don't put up with people who are
not like mediocre people who are like rape's not that big of a deal. They're like good people that think it's bad.
Where they look at it as a gray area.
No, they murder rapists. Well, that's what I meant.
Well, here's a super ironic part and the twist to it is all of these guys that pretend to be a Edema Roo just drag their name through the frickin' dirt. So the Roo gets shit on all the time by all stretches. Like we talked about earlier, how people would try to pass a bad horse on them, and they're basically like, "Oh, so what? It's just the Roo." Like nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit about fucking over the Roo because it's like they don't have a defense mechanism or something. It just doesn't matter. It seems in society everybody looks down upon them, except again, as we were talking a minute ago, where it's the upper echelon, real sophisticated, intelligent individuals, like the good people, respect the Roo and respect the Tinkers above, or to a greater degree. While it seems like the commoner, they just they're what you would expect. They're buffoons. So they just shit on them because they don't understand them. It's easier that way, I guess.
Yeah. I also like the description of him getting the sky iron.
Yeah, the Loden Stone.
So Yeah, I thought that was funny. It seemed like a meteorite or something. Sky iron.
Magnet, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's
what they're describing.
What I kind of like leading into that I wanted to mention, because I kind of felt it even in this read through, you're kind of like, I don't know, man, I get tugged back and forth where it's like, Kavoth isn't lying, but the Tinker thinks he's lying. And he's like trying to go overboard to say that he's not. And it's like this back and forth. That type of stuff is great because it gives you that. I know you guys don't like tension, but there's a emotional, psychological tension involved there, And personally, I feel for Kavoth in that respect, but it works out. So you get that little payoff. It's just that those little back and forths are pretty great. But
real Pepto moment.
Pepto moment.
Kavoth, as he should, thinks that he's the smartest character in this place.
I love the idea of someone reading a book and like sweating, and they're so worked up that they're drinking Pepto-Bismol, like just fanning themselves. I just can't. I don't know if I can take it. It's so
like, why do you
tense.
read this book? Like, look what it's doing to you, man. Look you gotta stop reading this book. It's destroying you.
I just can't.
Hey, but Kavoth should know at this point, right? Like, we've learned enough that
I just can't put it down.
We
That's
know
literally, I can't put it
Kavoth
down.
should know
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, he was in such great health, and then he just picked up this book, and all his hair fell out, and he just really lost it.
I do love though how the Loden Stone is also, again, it kind of goes to, he's here and I need to get rid of this horse, and here's a Loden Stone, and this is actually, and he even tells him, if you find your way by the university, which is where I live, then I can unload this and get my money back, basically. You could, it says like 20 talents, right? Is basically what he can unload this for, it sounds like.
Yeah, and yeah, he was like, 18 talents, or you can get more, if you give to the right person. So yeah, he was, it worked out perfectly for him. And they talk about loading stones. We get our first one, and then also like he's able to fucking use it to get the shell of the Dracus, and so he's able to get little pieces.
Oh yeah,
of,
that's right.
Of Dracus from.
Thanks for ruining that. I was about to get that payoff. I don't know about you guys, but when I read through this, it was kind of a funny thing for me where I'm like, yeah, magnets are fucking crazy. Even in our world, it's kind of nuts that the entire.
Just fucking realize that?
Well, I mean, you take it for granted, and it's kind of crazy that like my entire refrigerator, I can stick things on it. This is fucking magic,
dude. Like as a little kid, like you get like a magnet, and you try to push them together. Like I mean, that's like hours of fun.
Yeah,
as a little kid.
Yeah, it's magical. It is. It's literally like you're like, yeah.
There's like an invisible
It's as close
force.
as we have to magic. It's as close as we have to magic.
It is magic.
Besides electricity.
It's 100% magic.
It's electricity. Electricity is the same, or
electricity is nothing. It doesn't impress me.
Well, except for like that, the No Limit.
That's because you're
the No Limit Thuggin' album, right? That was magic.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
For all you No Limit fans,
I
it was literally Magic's album was Thuggin'. That was the name of it.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Magic.
No, not Mr. Magic. His name was Magic.
Well, he called himself Mr. Magic more than a couple times, and poor Mr. Magic and his wife and child died in a fiery car crash.
Really?
It was a sad
story.
story.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Magic Johnson's dead? I thought Magic Johnson was still around.
Why would you do that? Why would you tell me that?
I'm sorry.
I don't even...
I actually like that album.
I'm not even sure I can fucking carry on with this episode.
I don't know what to do. Well, I guess we'll just carry on, even though you don't know how.
Beyond that, like we talked about like the different things that he took from him and the things that he turned down, but then he goes into the town. It's kind of interesting too. Like, I mean, you get a bit of Kavoth's personality, like when he sees, the religious aspects of the town, he gets uncomfortable by it. Like Rothfuss makes it pretty clear that Kavoth is not about that religious life.
I like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, I'm not religious, but I like Christmas.
Yeah.
It sort of seems like that. Like, he's like, well, I still
Yeah. He likes that atmosphere, but he's not about the religion.
He likes the tradition, but one of the things that I really liked that sort of builds out the town in like a cultural way was the massive wheel on top of the church that was literally made of iron, not looked to be made of iron, not painted like painted wood to look like iron, but actually iron. And he says ordinarily such a display would have made me nervous, but since Trebon was a mining town, I guess it showed civic pride more than fanatic piety, which is interesting because it's one of those little details that when you tease that out, it could be like, oh, this massive cross, but it's like, no, it's a mining town. So they put this together, made this massive thing to show we're capable of doing this. So yeah, I like that.
Kind of
civic
seems
pride
like
angle.
both.
So-
like when he meets the town folk, like all the people like see him on top of the church and they think he's like fucking Telu reborn. And like when he goes into the bar owner and he's asking about his cousin, he sees the guy touching iron on a piece of iron, like an iron nail in the board of the
bar
top.
Yeah.
The bar.
And so like seems like it's kind of both. Like they
Seems
do
like,
seem pretty fucking religious.
And Kavoth,
but-
I think Kavoth walks in and says that normally something like that would seem daunting. He wasn't daunted by it because he was so headstrong about what his purpose was, getting in there and finding what happened. But yeah, he said normally something like that he would have found daunting in a town.
It would have made him worried. It seemed like it would have worried him, kind of like, I don't want to fucking walk into this town and fucking someone call me a witch. And, that kind of thing.
It seems like
kind of seemed like
it seems like there's a consistent threat to what the Arcanum does from the rubes of the world, and that's what it seems like. This town's filled with a bunch of rubes.
Well, and I mean he's seen like Scarpy telling his stories, and like he saw what happened to Scarpy, and he understands that the ultra religious people might like take anything kind of abnormal, especially like he's a fucking gross fucking soulless ginger, so that's got to be fucking scary.
Well, we also got
walking into a religious town where they're like good Telu fearing folk, and they're good Teluans and Talans, and
so this is back
this
to
this gross redhead walks into town. That's clearly he's a kind of a demon figure.
This is back to
it's good that that he fears it. It's justifiable because of what he is.
This is back to you probably haven't seen an Arcanist in this town in 150 years. Yeah, that's how we like it.
Yeah.
You guys don't even know what you're afraid of. Fucking morons. Like, yeah.
We haven't seen a redhead in here in 200 years. Last redhead we seen was torched that kid.
Yeah.
Son of the dragon.
I do like when he
Kissed by fire.
when he does come into the bar, just these little things that he incorporates where at the word wedding, the innkeeper's scowl turns stony, and obviously there's a feel here, but Kavoth could feel the two men farther down the bar not looking at him, pointedly not looking anywhere in his direction. So that's where he's like, it was true then. Something terrible had happened. Yeah, so I forgot about that. So he got worried when he talked to the Tinker, and the Tinker didn't know anything about it. He's like, fuck, man, did I come all the way out here, do all this, and then nothing? And like, as a reader, I think you're kind of getting pulled where you're like, all right, well then something's happening here. If it's not the Chandrian, something's got to happen here,
Do you think the Tinker didn't really know? Like he was like, oh, I was visiting family up in the mountains.
I don't think he was lying to him. I
mean,
I don't have any reason to believe him.
I don't know if he is or not, but I know it's big news.
Well, and then also, even if you get tugged in that direction,
like,
you still have to
in mind,
remember there's a guy in the bar. He's not making that shit up.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, this shit just happened. This is not, like, old news. This isn't like this happened, like, 3 days ago. This just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
but everybody knows about it.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
Dude, they don't have the internet,
a select few people know about it.
They don't have the internet. Nobody's getting Twitter updates
It's a very small, select few people that know about it. Like
I would think to
the point where like when
people
go back into the bar when that guy is talking about it, like the way he knew Kavoth didn't know what the fuck he was talking about was like when Kavoth said that shit, and he's like, I don't know how you would fucking know about it because no one knows about it.
Yeah.
So it's not well known. So no, it did not surprise me that the Tinker didn't know about it, and no, I don't get that that he was keeping it a secret for some reason, because what the fuck would that matter? Because Kavoth finds out about it like when he goes into town. So no, it wouldn't make any sense that Teeker was keeping it secret from Kavoth when Kavoth's going to find out what he needs to know in 2 minutes later.
So here he actually does a pretty good job where he's like, yeah, I had a cousin and I heard something went down. And it's pretty great because the guy's like, yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it, but he can't turn away a family member who's like, it's a pretty shitty thing to do. But then the whole feeling in the room when then he's walking and then everyone has their attention on him and he realizes where I'm going, it's not just that a survivor, it is the survivor. You can feel it in the room. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and that builds up to this moment we walk in with him in the room. And there she is.
Yeah, and I love I think it's important when he sees Denna, her reaction. I think that's important because I think a lot of people misinterpret what the fuck's going on with Denna. And I think one of the things they overlook is that when he sees Denna, her eyes went wide, and for once she was the one who was at a loss for words. She did not expect him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a genuine reaction to Kavoth coming in the room. That's not it's not. She's not acting. When she sees him, she's shocked that he's there. So I think that is for anyone who thinks that Denna is playing Kavoth and she's a Chandrian or any of these other crazy theories about her, that should be the biggest fucking hole in your fucking theory, is the fact that when she saw him, she was shocked.
Yeah, well, and then he delivers 3 7-word sentences, right?
Yeah.
He goes back to those 7s. Those 7-word sentences. The knight in shining armor. I remember this being very, very surprising to me in the first read through, where I'm just like, fuck, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit! It's Denna. In the moment, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, of course, it's one survivor, and yeah, I guess of course, but it's also still like, damn, dude, you're pretty taken aback.
Yeah, because what the fuck would she be out in the middle of some fucking no horse town?
Yeah, and he can't.
It was the biggest coincidence so far.
While he can't find her anywhere he's looking, then boom, he finds her in the one place that he's been, trying to get to for so long.
The one difference though, Fitz, is the coincidence is that Kavoth showed up, not that she was there for a purpose. The coincidence would be
so. I agree.
From her perspective, it's a coincidence that he would show up.
Yeah.
That's it does not, at no point does it feel like that she was there for Kavoth. It feels like it's weird that he showed up, not that she was there.
And she says anyone can make the trip after they get the news. It takes a special sort of man to show up when he doesn't know there's trouble. Boom. So he's fucking big swinging dick walking in the door, ready to solve their problems.
Hey,
just smacking
what's
it around,
the trouble at this point?
Flipping and flopping, fucking double donging it.
So, old double dong Dan, let me just ask you. So, at this point, what's the trouble? It's got to be her patron, right? Because he's the one who's punching her in the face.
Well, there's some trouble in the fact that a bunch of people just got murdered.
In a town that is probably gone. She's in a town by herself after surviving a crazy Chandrian attack.
Everyone
where she's
around
probably
her just got murdered.
Well, she's probably sitting there
she's
thinking,
not in danger anymore.
What?
Okay,
she's there alone.
She's in a town with that, they just saw all their people get attacked by the Chandrian, and she's the only one that survived, and she's a stranger, so there's a very high percentage chance that they're thinking she had something to do with it, which is the whole reason her patron fucking hit her in the first place, is because they knew that this town would look at her, and she even agreed that he was right to hit me because they did look at me like I was guilty.
And I kind of remember from the first time reading it that if she mentions that if she would have just ran, they would have been suspicious.
Well, they're suspicious regardless.
There was nowhere to run. Like, she would have, the only way out of that town, unless she's fucking walking.
So again, they're suspicious because a bunch of people are dead and she's left. And they can't explain who the fuck did this shit. So a bunch of people are dead, there's no one to blame, and she's left, and they don't know who the fuck she is. She's a stranger. So for all they know, they lulled somebody in, or they lulled this wedding party in to get massacred. They don't fucking know.
Yeah,
and
she
in
could
all
have
likelihood,
been part of it.
Yeah, in all likelihood, she's either going to sit in a cell for a while, or maybe they kill her. Maybe they find her guilty of whatever they can conjure
it's not
up.
like she can call an Uber and fucking hop out of there. Like, she has to go into town to get on a boat to go upstream to get back to Emory. Like, so it's not like she could just fucking dip out. Like, she can't just start walking back home.
Yeah, so the idea that she's not in trouble, she's in a lot of trouble. But speaking to that, yes, Kavoth comes in. I heard you were in some trouble. 7 words. So I thought I'd come and help. 7 words. Which I don't know if we've talked about that on the podcast as of yet, but she ends up talking about it, how he does that. And she does something that she does quite a bit, which is pretty great, where her eyes go wide for a moment, then narrows.
Liar.
You're lying. Yeah. Again, which is like the first thing she said to him. That's the first thing. Yeah. All over again, the first thing she says. And this is very much in line with kind of, I wondered what you're doing here. But yeah, I am, but it's a pretty lie.
But it's a pretty lie.
Yeah.
Said I would have come if I'd known.
Another
Anyone can
7
make the
words.
trip after they get the news, she said dismissively. It takes a special sort of man to show up when he doesn't know there's trouble. She sat up and turned to face me, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. Yeah, so, yeah, he's all about them 7 words, and she always knows when he's lying. Like, she catches him in his lies repeatedly throughout.
So much to this, man. I know that I'm not getting.
I don't know that.
I guess we'll have to go back through it.
What's that?
There just seems these instances of Rothfuss throwing these poignant hints that don't make sense. I don't know what to make of it a lot of times, Dan. I don't know how to make sense of it, so I can't speak on it.
I don't know. Like, none of this like trips me up. This all seems natural. I like it. Like, to me, like when I look at this and I step outside and I'm trying to analyze it, I think that it seems like Dennis Patron was using her for some purpose. He needed her to gain information, so that's why she's there. Kavoth shows up because he's looking for information on the Chandrian, so that's why they met. And then, like, the 7 words is because Elodin told him, there's 7 words to make a woman fall in love with you. Her ability to figure out why he's lying, like, I don't know exactly what that is, but I think, I just think she's fucking intelligent. She's equal.
She also seems to have she has a knack for falling into traps. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if it, in so many ways, but it seems to be a theme of sorts. And maybe it's just her station in life, and that's kind of...
She doesn't really, like, find herself in that many dangerous situations, though. Like, I mean, most of the time she's in a fairly stable, like...
Well, I guess what I mean by that...
Especially for a girl that's by herself, she's in a pretty fucking stable situation.
I guess what I mean by that is I feel like her relationship with her patron is a bit of a trap. So I guess maybe that's. That, I guess I'm extending
the
from
shit
that.
out of her. Like, there's something going on there. That is what I question. I don't question Denna. Like, I question the patron.
No, I don't question her intentions. What
about the 2 characters themselves being, some sort of puppets, or at least being at the right time at the right situation in these huge events?
Well, yeah,
at least something to them.
We've talked about
of
that.
course,
like,
there's something to it. That's what the story is.
It would not shock me if the Emir and Chandrian or the Angels, like they have some kind of hand in what Kavoth is doing, and they're trying to steer him, or they're at cross purposes, but whatever. Like I think there's people trying to keep him alive or trying to steer him. I think there's evidence for that. With Denna, it seems like her patron has a purpose for her. So yeah, it seems like they are being manipulated and being pushed in different directions, but what that means, I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what what the story's teasing out, right? I mean, that's at the heart of it.
I'm looking forward to Dan giving some more insights and more of what he knows. I know he's holding back. I know you guys are holding back on all the theories and the full theories. And I know we have more to come in book 3. So I really am chomping a bit at the...
Yeah,
so the audience doesn't...
I like the fact that you think I got it all figured out. I mean,
the audience doesn't know this.
You know me, and all my talents and all my abilities, so you should assume that I would have it all figured out.
The audience doesn't know this yet, but Dan has written book 3. He's written it.
Yeah.
He's written his own version. It's 8,000 pages.
So
it's a bit of it's a bit long. It's a long yarn, but yeah, there's a lot of poops,
1,000
a lot of
pages,
a lot of washing of hands, a lot of flossing.
1,000 pages is Kavoth gets a puppy, and it's him training his potty training his puppy. But it's really interesting. It's really interesting.
The boy band arc and the Super Mario arc and the Tonto arc to sort of fit all those 8,000 pages and some you haven't heard about.
If you guys don't know at least a little bit more in the philosophy and theories of this book, and you guys are just egging me on, like declining all my theories and just being like, no, that's not what it's about. All we know is what we know, and don't have something else to add to it, then I'll be sorely disappointed.
Well, yeah, I got a ton of in the next episode, I'm going to give you my my first suspect for Dennis Patron. There's multiple suspects, but I'll only give the first one in the next episode. And then I feel like I know what happens with the king. Yeah, the 4-plate door, I think I know what's going on there. And there's plenty of stuff. Like we're going to, this is episode 17. We still got to go back and do an addendum episode to 13 because I feel like I figured out, what's going on behind the 4-plate doors. So yeah, we got a ton of stuff.
Well, it should be also recognized that Dan has laid out a lot of theories, just Fitz hasn't paid attention to any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
That's why he's like, you guys are holding back here. It's just you haven't been listening this entire time.
I'm giving a lot.
So you put it all on the table already. I was just a little too.
Well, I mean, I pulled out just like to throw some shit on the table. Like I've thrown out who Kavoth's mom is, who his lineage is. I've thrown out the Doors of Stone. I've thrown out the Ruach, and
Ari.
Maybe they spawned into the Tinkers, the Adim, the Adimaru. I've thrown out the princess he rescues, who's behind the 4-plate door.
What else so far?
Like I've given a lot of fucking theories.
Well, you say what else as he's still saying them.
I know. I'm listening to him. Okay,
you're not because you're saying what else?
It's like 16 episodes where almost every episode I throw out a theory. Almost every episode I throw out at least one new theory.
I think the most solid is the boy band for sure, or
yes.
or possibly
the boy band and Tonto, 100% the best.
Denna moonlighting as a Jack in the Box.
Oh yeah. That's an amazing theory.
Listen, Tim. The thing is, it's so interesting.
Franchisee.
Franchise Jack in the Box owner.
She's a district manager of three Jack in the Box in the Fae.
Dan has a lot of concrete theories that help me understand the book, and so as we go through them, I want to keep being reminded because, I don't know if Dan's right. He doesn't know if he's right. You don't know.
I'm right.
None of
I'm
Tim's
right.
That's why they're
theories
called
are right.
theories.
So,
I'm right.
so the thing is I'm going through these and we all don't know what happens in book 3. I'd like to be reminded of the things that actually have substance and not just my theoretical, like, you know what I'm saying? Not,
Yes.
Dan, you've read these enough that you at least know when to tell me, Fitz, that is not fucking what's going on. Shut the fuck up for a minute and listen to this.
Dude,
that's why.
Look, if I did that, then that's going to take up the whole episode.
You know what the best? Yeah. The best payoff.
No, I love it.
The
though,
best.
It's so
the best payoff for Fitz is going to be every single character in the books.
Like fucking completely
angels.
set yourself up for that one.
I know. But it's right though, man. It's such an interesting book, and I have to be on my P's and Q's to keep up with you guys. What do we got coming up?
Yeah, next episode we'll get him and Dinah will go to the Mothman farm. They'll meet old what's his name, Shim or whatever is, that bumpkin. He'll meet him in the wood with the pegs.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then we'll get right to where they see the dragon, the Dracus.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Awesome.
There are no weak chapters, man. I mean, it's every time it's like, oh shit, that's coming up. Oh man, that's coming up.
We're at a point where I think we'll finish the first book in 5 episodes, I would guess. So, including
22
next week. So yeah, it'll end up being around 21, 22 episodes.
21's my lucky number. Let's do 21.
No, then we're doing 22. So I'll stretch it out.
We'll do 22. 25 is my lucky number.
25?
Looks like we're doing 22 then. You guys solidified it. But yeah, I'm glad we just, really fucking crushed it here at the end here. I think it's one of the most powerful endings we've had.
With we have numbers. Fitz went sideways and froze, so that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good. Good capper at the end there. Which this ties in with his typical appearance, which is kind of aloof, a little misdirected.
I wish the audience could see Fitz's face right now. Like he's just he looks so confused.
Well, that's again straight, really consistent to his typical, representation. So that works. And now he's gone.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Peace out.